Hello and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast on the internet that has the science and the screaming to determine what is the single greatest movie of any given year. That given year is 1984, and tonight's movie is finally the one that won a couple of Oscars that year, Amadeus. My name is Ryan, and I will be your host for tonight. As the host, I will be awarding points to my panelists when they say interesting things, funny things, compliments to me, insults to each other. Do not compliment. The panelists may not compliment each other. If I hear that, then I will give myself 1,000 points. Our first panelist tonight, the man who sounds so lofty, he might just shit marble. It's Greg.
Yeah, listen, that's a serious condition, and I'm working on it. Well, you said shit marbles?
Yeah, no, marble.
Oh, marble. Yeah, well, that would also be bad.
And piss marbles.
Yeah, I'm messed up, everybody. 40 plus is not as easy as you might think.
Our second panelist tonight, the patron saint of mediocrity, it's Mike Gravano.
Finally, somebody's using my real title, and I'm honored you remembered it.
And in our guest spot, she reviews weekly film releases from the Tribune News Service and the Los Angeles Times. She's the vice president of the Los Angeles Film Critics Association, and she loves Beyond Fest so much she can't get enough of it. She's the movie critic with the amount of notes required, no more, no less. It is Katie Walsh. Katie, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk about this movie with you all.
If either of the two other panelists had any credits like that, I would have listed them. It's not like I forgot them. They just don't.
Did you say the shit marbles thing?
I did say the
Okay, well then, yeah, you got through my CV.
Guys, before we dive into this epic in so many ways movie, Katie, I'm going to start with you. Overall thoughts. Is this good? Does it hold up in 2024?
I think so, yes. I saw this movie, I think when I was like a kid or a tween, and I was very taken with it at the time. And then they premiered a restoration of the theatrical cut at the Academy Museum. And I went to that, and I had not seen it in probably 30 years. And it still is so great. I had forgotten how funny it is. And I just loved seeing it again, and the tone, and F. Murray Abraham just
Katie
queening out.
Yes.
I loved it.
How was that crowd reaction? Like, was it just a huge party inside the theater?
No, it was kind of solemn.
Yeah.
But I took a friend who had never seen it, and she was like, wow, you nailed it. You knew that I would like this movie. And I was very glad that I was right. So it was really fun.
I could see, like, on another timeline how this movie gets, like, almost Rocky Horrored. Like, everyone has cues, and there's, like, midnight shows. Mike, what about you? Is this your first time? What'd you think?
This is my history with this movie is that I know F. Murray Abraham from like Star Trek Insurrection and Homeland.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
And then Tom, I don't know how to say his last name, Holche?
Hulse.
I think it's Hulse.
I knew it couldn't be Holche. Holche and Gabbana.
He's not
from
Italian.
Hunchback from Notre Dame. So yeah, this was my first time. And I gotta say, anytime we were like, oh, the big Oscar movie from 40 plus years ago, I'm like, great, this is going to be the worst movie that we do all season. Amadeus fucking slaps. I also had no idea it was funny and immediately was laughing my ass off this movie rules.
Greg?
Yeah, I've loved this movie my entire life. I can't remember like when I first saw it, but there is a director's cut, which is rated R, I believe. And then there's the original cut, which is PG. And I guess I saw the PG one when I was a kid, or my parents were just being cool and let me see the rated R version. But I've had this movie like with me my entire life, and I've always thought of it as, you know, one of these like kind of perfect movies, good for any occasion, good for any audience. And I went into it with those expectations, and it blew me away in completely different ways this time. The costuming is so fun and so beautiful. The lighting, it's all natural lighting. It's all the candle stuff. It's the Barry Lyndon, which I was like so blown away, but I hadn't realized that this movie that I already loved also did that, and it adds to the vibes. And the performances are amazing. Some of them are over the top, but in the perfect way. F. Murray Abraham is having the most fun I've ever seen anybody have on screen before. He's just doing it. The Dulce actually plays the piano, which is so cool that you could actually see someone bang out the notes.
And farts. Those are his real farts.
And those are his real farts. Everything about this is a triumph, is over the top and amazing. And I think that in a season that has the movies have each blown us away, the only consideration for some of these movies is, did they blow us away enough compared to what we already thought of them? And this delivers so big that I think there's a good chance, Ryan, we are talking about our movie of the year tonight.
And yeah, I mean, another important aspect is did Mike understand it? And it feels like he got this one.
It feels like Mike was not grumpy when he watched it, and so he likes this one. Basically, Paris, Texas is out because Mike says, I'm not going to do that one. And I think that has opened up the lane. It's right now, it feels to me, Amadeus or Ghostbusters, it's one of those two movies. And so we'll have to see. But I'm excited to talk about it tonight because it's such an enthusiastic, beautiful, fun, interesting movie, and yet it also does have those deep layers, and so it's both crowd pleasing, and I think like it opens up a lot of interesting conversation topics.
Well, why don't we all chill back on this talk for a little bit?
Oh, okay.
Because Mike has his Paris, Texas. Greg has his Stop and Consent.
No, Ryan, don't say it.
I think that this is a fine movie.
Fine. Oh, wow.
I think that this is an incredible first hour, a third hour that is insane. Like, it just goes full soap opera in a way that mostly works, and a second hour that has got so much opera it can go fuck itself. Like, honestly, the second hour of this movie is borderline unnecessary. But
Ryan, some of the opera, there's both a fake horse made of numerous people, and then a real horse takes that fake horse out briefly. Which slaps.
The fact that they didn't hump on stage, that fake horse and real horse, that's another knock against this movie. I think this movie's good. I don't know if it's in my top 5 of the year. So we're just going to have to play it out. Maybe you guys will change my mind throughout the course of this show.
Wait, I need to know, did you watch the director's cut or the theatrical cut?
Directors.
Because the director's cut is 3.
Yeah.
I've only watched the theatrical cut because I watched the restoration I have no idea what I saw when I was 10 or whatever. I assume it was the theatrical cut.
I don't think the director's cut was released until like the early 2000s.
Yeah, right? Okay,
yeah, I think it was like 2002. But I have this extremely old,
Nice,
beautiful,
look at that.
She's holding
vintage DVD.
I don't like the sound of,
1997.
I don't like vintage DVD. That's like that's such
I
a
had to
sad-
flip this bitch over, okay? Side A, side B.
Also, look at the edge. It's got that like shitty plastic clip.
Oh
thing
yeah,
that you have to
dude.
do. Yeah.
Oh man.
It's kind of crusty.
But that's got special
looking-
features, right?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
I haven't watched them yet, but
Of course,
it's only
yeah.
2 hours and 40 minutes.
Katie.
2 hours and 40 minutes. So, and many people say the theatrical cut is better.
on streaming, it's very hard to find the theatrical cut.
No, it's like impossible
So
to find. That's
didn't.
why they just did this restoration of the theatrical, and it's like in theaters now. Like it's like playing in theaters right now.
Or yeah, you can get a DVD. I am going to give Katie 2 points. It's the Connor Kilpatrick honorary points if you have physical
Right.
media
Yes.
that you show during the show.
Also, Katie, what I love about you showing that off is we often like to talk about our history with things is when you're walking down the Blockbuster aisles, what posters were burned into your brain. And this, I assumed as a kid, this was
Iconic
a horror
poster.
This one.
Because this is a terrifying poster.
Mike,
My friend has never watched it because he was scared of this as a kid.
this kind of is a horror movie. The one thing about doing this show that I've realized is that like horror is in way more genres than we think of, but like Salieri at the end is a straight up lich. Like
He's a
his whole-
Nosferatu.
Yeah, he is so evil and he's so vampy and he's loving every second of it, which you have to give him credit for. This is a guy who did not learn how to enjoy his life until he became completely evil. And that's when he's like, oh, dude, I'm going to be a little bit of a dandy and I'm going to like tell people like, you know, that their souls are forfeit and such.
Do you know what it was? He cut his neck in suicide, but what that did was give him like this like festive scarf to
Yes,
wear.
dude.
He's like, oh, I'm going to talk like this now. But it's the makeup and it's the gray eyes.
Yeah,
God
those
damn,
ruby eyes.
He looks
And
like a
his
very
gestures.
made up Mel Brooks.
He has completely different gestures as an old man, which I really respect performance wise, but they're so like I don't know. They're so elegant, and it's a lot of hand up on his chest. And
It's an old guy who lived a lie his entire life,
Yeah.
and then right at the end moved to Palm Springs. Like that is how he is.
For any listeners who play D&D, this is Strahd from The Curse of Strahd.
It is 100%. Yeah, it really is Strahd. You know, this person who was like frozen in time and evil, but loving it and really feeling himself and just needing so much attention, like needing nonstop attention.
Well, I'm super interested in this episode because we can just make stuff up, and that happened in the movie, and Katie has to believe us because we'll just say, oh, that was in the
It was in the
director's cut.
excess 20
Yes,
minutes.
exactly.
So-
Excuse me, I have the IMDb list of things that happened, differences.
She was
I have
prepared
it
for
up.
our shady asses.
I'm ready to consult it.
Okay, we're going to take a break and then dive into Amadeus. In 1984, Milos Forman... No, wait, let's go back. In 1979, Peter Shaffer wrote a play... No, wait, let's go back. In 1830, Alexander Pushkin wrote a play... Okay, wait, last time. Mozart was born on January 27th, 1756. 74 years later, Alexander Pushkin wrote a play called Mozart and Salieri. Peter Shaffer wrote a play based on that in 1979, and a screenplay for Milos Forman movie 5 years later. Based on the theory of the telephone game, it's hard to know what actually happened. But what happened in the movie is this. In 1781, the court composer of the chinful Habsburgs, Salieri, meets his idol, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and immediately hates his silly ass. The two of them, real house husbands of Vienna themselves through lies, backstabs, poverty, opera, drunkenness, bad dads, and farts, until one of them dies. The story of the chosen one and the man who eventually betrays him obviously goes back all the way to 2015 when Lin-Manuel Miranda debuted Hamilton. But with Amadeus, we have it in its truest, most biblical form. Taste buds, I ask you this. The tasteful, talentless Ira Glass once said that there's a difference between having taste and having talent, and this might be the ultimate story of that. Is this a movie about greatness and genius? What is it saying about where genius comes from, and how does it show how great men are treated? And are these messages tailored for an 1984 audience?
That is a mouthful. I think it is... You can be as great as you can be, and you can either be happy with that, or you can be a petty vampiric bitch like Salieri.
Great.
But also, talent does not a good person make, and Mozart is the original like piece of shit rock and roller.
I feel like the very 1980s message that I see in it
Mike.
is that greatness exists and that the world will conspire to hamper it. That it will either not be like embraced by the elites. It's very interesting how in this movie they go out of their way to show that the common people love Mozart, but the elites seem to not get it. And the idea that like there are these conspiracies that want to hamper and take down great men. I feel like there's like an Ayn Randian style like line of thought there that was very big in the 80s, that we should just like let great people be great and not try to stop them, but that there is something in other people, the Salieris of the world, who hate greatness. And then there's another class of people like the elites who just don't really understand anything, and they just back whatever they are told is good.
Well, yeah, I think that the Habsburg, the king of Prague,
what's the Holy Roman Emperor?
Jeffrey Jones, the disgraced Jeffrey Jones. I think his whole thing is like a lot of them where it's like, we want it to sound nice, but we want it to sound like everything else, right? And that's what Salieri was good at, is he was like just remixing other shit, and everybody was doing it. That's fine. That's an art, Beastie Boys. But the true genius is to change it forever, to like add new things, and that's really confusing for people at the time. That happens all the time with all forms of art.
Well, you see, like, the emperor constantly, like, he's like the least resolute person in his opinions. He's constantly like venturing an opinion and then kind of looking around to see what people think. But ultimately, they try to then mirror back to him whatever he lands on. And it seems like the prevailing theory amongst them is that there's too many notes, which certainly Mozart does play more notes than Salieri.
Yeah.
That's shown in the movie.
I think this is Milos Forman's movie about Hollywood and about the problematic relationship between artists and patrons, and how there's an industry of art, and then there's like the genius within the industry and how the industry is sort of set up to crush the talent. And even at the end, when he's trying to finish this thing and he's just holding out his hand for the money and he's dying on his deathbed, and how like the industry will just like sap the life out of you. And then I think there's also some interesting stuff in there about like,
Katie.
you know, maybe Salieri's making these like really middle brow but palatable operas, and then the people also want this like really lowbrow stuff that's very entertaining, and like Mozart's kind of able to do all of these different modes in a way. But his talent his talent existing within this framework of, I guess, capitalism, but like a need for a patron. Like he needs the king to pay him.
Yeah, I mean,
and then also Stanzi just being like, "We need money, dude.
Yeah.
Like, get paid."
His manager agent wife is like really helping out his career. But the director thing I think is so apt. One, because of like what we know about Milos Forman and how he sort of believes, in a way that I believe him, that his career could have been much different if he ate more shit, if he, you know, bowed down to studios, and he just chose not to, you know. And so he made not that many movies. But
a lot, but like a few really good ones, right? He's got a pretty good batting average.
There's some all-timers in there, but Mozart's ability to appeal to different crowds definitely comes the broker he gets. And I think that you definitely see that in Hollywood as well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because he really does. The thing he seems to offer is not just genius, but bombast, right? Like the idea of in Figaro, he's going to keep the song going for 20 minutes and then he's going to put ballet back in there. And then in like Don Giovanni, like, that's like Andrew Lloyd Webber style. Like the scenery comes crashing down and there's special effects in it. And so I think they really did do a good job of capturing like, okay, when I think of Mozart, I'm like, ooh, very fancy, obviously, because I don't know anything about it. But then when you put him in his context, it's like, no, okay, he's the guy that is the showman. He's the guy that is so big. And that's why the powers that be are like, it seems a little new, right? Like anything new is like kind of a low-key threat towards them. And so they try to like nip that stuff in the bud early.
Well, because he's new in both being too over their heads, because it's so new, it's actual art, while having the stage version of farts, which Mozart likes to do everywhere. So it's both like too highbrow and too lowbrow for them. And so they're like, no. And I hate ballet, and you put a ballet in here, so why would that be?
But I mean, also, how many talented, you know, people who don't know how to be in the room with Hollywood elites get rejected just because they laugh weird or they don't know the references or stuff. And I think we see that here as well.
I also feel like there's a way in which, though, this movie like kind of erases some parts of what it takes to be as successful as Mozart is, and like emphasizes his natural talent, and does not, like Stanzi does at one point say, well, he works all day, right? Yeah. But we don't see a ton of his working all day until it starts killing him. And instead we're given this idea that like these things are just magically like pouring out of him. And I think that misunderstands hard work. And I do think that there's a way in which they allude to the fact that his dad was like hustling him around as a child prodigy early on. But is there enough in the movie emphasis given to how like that was a big part of why he was popular at all? And so that sort of like politicking also goes into making the man. I think there's like this 80s emphasis on individual greatness that like kind of has an ahistoricism to it, which doesn't bother me just for the fact that this movie does not track history, because it uses history kind of as like a background to tell a story. I'm not upset about that. I just think that the message about greatness kind of erases major components of it, like that it's hard and you have to just like get in there and actually do the work. It's not just a big montage of you being successful constantly.
Yeah, I mean, is the way that this movie looks at Mozart, because Salieri is telling the story, just Salieri's way of looking at Mozart, how us plebes think of the talented is they're just magical.
Yeah, that they're like a lens through which genius pours out into the world, right? And not that when they were 5, they were already pecking out performances on a keyboard, you know, like
because there's even a scene where Salieri sees his sheet music and goes, "There's no correcting. There's no mistakes."
Yeah.
But he grabbed like a version that Stanzi brought a version of that to him. Like, so even if he was just sitting in his chair being like, but no, okay, like it is all Salieri's jealous, seething version of Mozart's life.
And I think Salieri, like he shaped himself to assimilate into the elites, right? Like we see his humble backgrounds, we understand, his narrative, his personal narrative of himself, where he's like,
Katie,
I brought myself up from this humble beginning and I fit in with these people and I kiss ass, and he's got his way of dealing with all these different people, and Mozart's like, I'm just going to be myself. And I think in a way, I think Salieri's very jealous of him because of his talent, but also because of his willingness to like be an individual.
Yes.
Absolutely. Greg brought this up a little bit earlier, but I do want to talk about the two dads, because the part that Katie's referencing is basically Salieri is just there like waiting for his dad to die, and he does, and he's like, yes, it's time to live my life. And in a very similar way, I think that Wolfie was just trying to get out of his dad's house. I mean, that is a fucked up relationship, and basically Jesus and God is to Salieri as Wolfie's literal dad is to Wolfie, and the abuse and being there too much or not there at all shaped these guys way, like according to the movie, way more than anything else.
They both seem frozen in childhood. So like Salieri, like he denies himself all the pleasures of the world, but he doesn't deny himself sweets. And his attitude towards sweets is the attitude of a child, and he indulges in a childish way. And Mozart is never able to really control himself. Like he's never able to fully function as an adult. He constantly gives in to all his desires. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's because they're both frozen in time by their weird relationships with their dads. And so they're like rendered permanent children, and they're unable to like fully just become individuals because of it.
Salieri keeps saying, and I swear I never touched a woman. She's like, bitch, nobody thought you were touching women.
Though
maybe if you were made of candy.
Historically, he had 8 kids and a wife.
Yeah,
but that's why I think the movie's trying to make a specific kind of point about specific kind of people, and it does fine. I don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah,
Mike,
no,
go watch
this
the
is not a
documentary.
documentary.
Historically, Angelica Schuyler had like 8 brothers too.
Yeah,
we're not really talking about history here.
All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we are going to do a very, very special Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore.
That's right, guys. It is time for Rushmore. Every season on the show, we dedicate a Rushmore to who we think would have been the Ghostbusters of that year. This year, however, has the Ghostbusters. So, despite there being a 2024
Swish.
Ghostbusters segment over.
We did it, y'all.
Instead of this year did have a Ghostbusters, but the new Ghostbusters sort of dropped the thing of let's get the 4 hottest comedians, that the first 3 movies had done, the hottest comedians at the time. So we're going to dedicate this to the 2024 Ghostbusters. If they did the movie in the classic way, who would be in it? We're looking for comedians who put butts in seats, basically. And we will, or our favorite comedians. There aren't comedians who put butts in seats at all in 2024, so that's just not a thing. You can ask Billy Eichner about that, and he will fucking scream at you. But yeah, what's the Ghostbusters movie that we want to see? Greg, we're going to start with you. And remember, if you choose the person that I want, that's 3 points right away.
All right.
Do I get to choose 4 or just one at a time?
One at a time.
Okay.
That would be good, though, if the guest could just choose 4 right off the bat.
I get to cast Ghostbusters by myself, and you guys have to be quiet.
You may say, good idea, one time. Okay.
Just give me validation, and I'll appreciate it.
You are fitting right in here. This is the exact vibe of the show.
This is the exact reason for wanting to be on a podcast.
Now,
yeah, right.
When I say my name, you're going to go, record scratch? No way. This guy's an oldie, but he's also a goodie,
Wait,
Ryan.
you're going to say your name?
Yeah, I'm going to say Greg. It should be me. It should be me. It's 2024, and the funniest working comedian, Ryan, is Martin Short. I am so glad The Only Murders in the Building exists, because I think for a long time, Martin Short was bouncing between obscurity and kind of cult stardom. But I believe with his performance in The Only Murders in the Building, and now looking back retroactively at his career, this is the funniest person to ever exist. This is our funniest comedian, and we're so lucky that he's still alive and that he's had like actually pretty good work done, so you can't even really tell. I can't believe how well he moves. He is 90% of what is good about the show, and I think part of what is so good about his performance in The Only Murders in the Building is very clearly Steve Martin was like, well, this is just a paycheck and I'm gonna like take it easy. And after the first season, he realized he was getting housed, and he's like, all right, I have to bring a little bit more attention to what I'm doing here. And in that way, he was able to even elevate Steve Martin's performance.
That first season was actual Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Like the guy who's just in a corner and never talking.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the times he would just be holding the script.
Only Murders is great, but let us not forget that Jiminy Glick is back.
I know, and Jiminy Glick is
I
back.
was gonna say there's new Jiminy Glick.
And Jiminy Glick is probably one of the greatest characters of all time.
Can I make an addendum to your nomination and
Do
just
it.
write Jiminy Glick?
Just write Jiminy
Read my
Glick.
mind.
If that's what
Or-
you're feeling, Ryan, I say do it.
Is he Martin Short as one of the Ghostbusters and Jiminy Glick as a Slimer type?
A Slimer type really describes that character quite well.
Now tell me about the Slimer. It says that you're a ghost here. Okay, Martin Short, ready. Mike, what do you got?
Do you know what one of our hottest rising comedic stars is of 2024, to the point that she opened a comedy in 2024 to $219 million? That is
Barbie?
unheard of. No, well, 2020, but no, it's the doll Barbie. Very close, Barbie in human form. It's Sydney Sweeney. Get that Gen Z in there. Get those little young butts in seats.
She can open a movie.
She can open a movie. She has sad eyes, and they can make jokes about that if you get actual comedians in there.
She will literally be in anything.
She'll be in anything. And she'll hustle to be in anything.
I think she has to like be a little careful because like I love her attitude of like, yeah, the movie was bad. I don't give a shit. But there's only so many bad movies you could be in, even if you are that beautiful. After a while, people are going to be like, isn't that person who's in bad movies? You might have to be a little bit more picky occasionally.
Is she funny at all?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Wasn't
No.
she funny in White Lotus?
She
I thought
was
she was
funny
funny
in
in
White
White Lotus.
She's kind of funny, yeah.
She said the term bossy bottom, and I think that's pretty funny.
Okay.
Yeah,
She
Dad,
likes to
maybe
say-
he was
she
a
likes
bossy
to, like,
bottom.
Coin for it, bossy bottom, and anyone but you. She says hot girl fit, which means you look fit, but you're very weak. I think she does want to coin terms for Gen Z.
I just watched Anyone But You.
It's so
I know
bad.
that movie. It's so bad. It's so bad.
There's never
She's
been less
not good in
chemistry.
it.
No.
I know.
They had so much chemistry on the carpet and interviews
Yeah.
for that movie, and then zero of it ended up in the movie.
It seems like
I
a
just have to
parody.
say,
It's like a couple steps
my-
away from full parody.
Yeah, I just want to say my baby boy Glenn is innocent. When we're talking about the badness of Anyone But You, he is innocent. Sydney, guilty. But I do like her. I don't know. I might have to sell my stock though.
Yeah, I would sell now because I think the talent is catching up to everybody. Katie, speaking of your baby boys, who do you got for us?
Okay, I'm looking at my SNL cast because, of course, maybe they can't open a movie, but we're going with tradition. And I'm kind of stuck between two people, but I'm gonna go with Bowen Yang.
Yes.
That's
That's
Because-
such a strong answer.
He, first of all, I love him. I love his podcast, Las Culturistas, and he's like been in a lot of movies, or he's starting to branch out into movies. Fire Island. He just shot a movie with Andrew On. He voices a lot of stuff. I feel like he's of the SNL cast. I almost went with Sarah Sherman.
Yeah, the squirm.
You can
Because-
you can go with her your next turn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going with Bowen. I think Bowen is one of the breakout, higher end SNL stars that we've got right now.
I think he is beloved. I think people notice when he's pissed that somebody came on stage at SNL that shouldn't have. And I do think that
Yes.
he's one of the most I don't want to say bankable, but reliable. We have one scene that needs to kill in this movie. Who do
Yeah.
we cast? You always go get Bowen Yang.
Yeah.
We want to
definitely.
remake Titanic, and we need somebody to play the iceberg. You get Bowen fucking Yang.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna do one more before I put one on. Greg, what do you got?
All right. Now I'm gonna move. No, this one's gonna be personal one for Greg, because I want to be the one to say it. I believe if you need Ghostbusters, you're gonna need some like off the cuff humor in there, right? You're gonna need some improv, some feeling of delivering something other than what's in the script, right?
Wait, hold on. Off the cuff or off the cuffs? Is this Christian Slater?
It's not Christian Slater, but it is Matthew Barry
Oh,
from
yeah.
What We Do in the Shadows. On this list are many actors that I have a lot of respect for, but the only one I literally want to be is Matt Barry. He has the best life, and he's doing a great job.
I'm sorry, but doesn't Ghostbusters famously take place in New York City?
New York City.
Okay, I'm going to put somebody in right now, and I am going to... Not a ton of star power here, but I'm going with Bowen Yang first.
Strong.
Yay.
That was a good answer.
Yeah.
When she started talking, it seemed like maybe she was just going to throw something out there, but then she said Bowen Yang. I was like, shit. That's a pretty good one.
Katie.
I think an SNL cast member should be in this movie, and it should be Mikey Day.
Oh.
Speaking of it being Mikey Day, Mike, it's your turn.
Mikey Day. What if I told you this show is nominated for 13 comedic Emmys and won 10? We want somebody from the biggest comedy. Is it a comedy that makes you laugh? No, but it's a comedy that wins things all the time. And the star of it is also in movies now, and he's got those eyes. I'm all about getting little kids into the seats, and that's why I'm saying Jeremy Allen White. We want a short king Ghostbuster this year.
Little kids into the seats?
The Gen Z. They're all like 25
okay.
now. I know they're not little.
I was gonna say, do you think the bear is the bear in the big blue house and just is going to be toddlers?
Yeah, I keep watching it and be like, kids watch this?
Okay. Mike, that's going straight on.
He's going to scream at the ghosts? He's going to
Wow.
scream at his Ghostbusters?
He can see his dead dad, and it's the ghost of Gene Wilder.
Yes, Ghost.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, Ghost.
Mike.
Yes, ghost. All right, Katie, what's up?
Oh, I get another
You
one?
get so many more.
I get so many. Okay, I'm going back to the SNL cast. I am saying Sarah Sherman, Sarah Squirm. I think she has the weirdo, quirky energy. She's playing the nerd,
Yeah.
type. She's got the mad scientist thing going on.
Yeah, she could be the Egon for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm liking how this is shaping up with I think she and Jeremy Allen White would have some interesting chemistry.
The
Or
weirdest
John.
sex you'd ever see.
And I'd like to see it.
Oh, nobody's not going to watch.
Are we sure we want to have weird sex in a Ghostbusters movie? Is the world prepared for that?
I do.
Ghostbusters,
More eroticism, more sex and
that is
movies,
a weirdly
please.
horny movie, Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I want an NC-17 Ghostbusters.
But I am a little bit, I'm deciding between two, and I just want to see what happens after I put Matt Berry.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Correctamundo.
So everybody's got one more nominee left. Greg, what do you got?
Quinta Brunson. She is absolutely killing it
Oh.
on Abbott
Great.
Elementary. Before that, she was the funniest part of Black Lady Sketch Show, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to move on. And the show was like, you know what, we're going to peace out. Nobody ever talked about it again after she left. Also, she's very tiny, and I just think there's so much like potential with that, like where she shoots the thing and she flies backwards, or you put her in a compartment on the side of the car or
This shit
something
writes
like
itself.
that. Yeah, exactly. We're already most of the way there. Also, she can play a lot of different types of characters. I think most people, if you only know her from Abbott Elementary, check out some of the other characters that she's done because she's got quite a bit of range.
Yeah, man, it's hard to imagine her at this point as anybody but that.
I know, and it's weird because it's just like she's not just this like very pure like person.
She curses on other things.
She curses.
What?
She remember on
Not
the
Miss
other.
Teagues.
She was the stoner character on the Black Lady Sketch Show.
It's a good one, but I am going to... Oh, no, wait. We're doing one more. Mike, what do you got?
What if we want another young, hot actor that'll get those little kids, and I mean 25-year-olds, butts in seats, who do you want to do an impression of from the first Ghostbusters? Do you want Dan Aykroyd, and then for 3 years later, he'll still be talking like Dan Aykroyd? And maybe the sexy Dan Aykroyd with a little mustache? It's Austin Butler. We want Austin Butler. He's in every movie. He's super sexy. It doesn't matter that he has no personality. Tell him who to be, and he will be him.
I thought he was very good on SNL when he hosted.
Did he host?
Yeah, he was funny. I thought he was very funny,
He's also-
but I'm a huge, huge fan.
He was also hilarious in Dune 2. Man, that guy cracked me up. Okay, Austin Butler, and then Katie, one more. What do you got?
Okay, I don't know if I should stick with the freaking SNL.
Do
cast.
it, because I don't think
He's doing
everything
well.
you said in this segment was about SNL, including the Austin Butler thing.
It's how they use.
I know, true. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go with. I don't. He's up and coming. I don't think he is like star like, but he could like soon. Marcelo Hernandez. I think he'd be really cute in a Ghostbusters movie.
What's he from?
From SNL. Marcelo.
Oh, yeah. Why would I- of course.
Hey, thanks for
Did you
asking.
do that on purpose?
It's hard because there's like a cast of 30 now, so which he's one of the new kids.
Yeah, he's one of the new kids, but I think he's really funny, and I think he would be cute in a movie like this.
All right. Quinta Brunson makes The Mountain.
Hell yeah.
But let me give Greg a point, and then I'm going to give
Greg,
Mike, and
Greg.
Katie a point for not saying Matt Rife.
Mike.
So appreciate that shit.
Katie,
And I do want to talk about the Louis Tolley role, because could Quinta Brunson move down there?
Oh,
Does it
I
have
height,
had
Ryan?
somebody for that.
Okay, what do you got, Greg?
Charlie Day.
Oh, Luigi?
Yeah, the Luigi.
That feels like 2013's. Whenever
Ooh.
Pacific
Oh!
Rim came out.
Sometimes you say the meanest things to me on this show, Mike.
I was trying to be mean to Charlie Day, but and also make room for mine, which is Jack Quaid, Hollywood's nice boy.
That's a pretty good one.
Hollywood's nice boy.
Katie, who's 2024's Rick Moranis, do you think?
Oh God, I don't know.
Austin Butler?
Yeah, he can do anything.
SNL executive producer Lorne Michaels.
All three of Please Don't Destroy sharing one role.
Yes. Oh,
It
it's got to be
is, yes.
one of those.
Oh yes, it can be the brown-haired one.
The
The
brown-haired,
glasses one.
please
The
don't
bespectacled.
Hey, please don't destroy. I'm talking to you right now. We respect you. We think you're funny. We will never learn your names. We
Yeah.
will never learn your names.
You
I know
boys better
two
stick
Nepo
together.
babies, don't know which.
He is a nepo baby. He's got brown hair. He does not have glasses, and he does not have red hair.
Oh, that one. Sure.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
a fun game of Guess Who.
Guess who?
Yeah.
Please don't
Yeah.
destroy it.
Katie,
Okay. Your 2024 Ghostbusters are Bowen Yang, Jeremy Allen White, Matt Berry, and Quinta Brunson.
That's
and
great.
Your Rick Moranis is the total on each other's shoulders in a trench coat. Please don't destroy.
Yeah.
That is 2024, baby. When we
Nailed
come
it.
back, 1984. Amadeus almost prides itself in not being your daddy's stale musician biopic. The Mozart of musician biopics to the other Salieris we've been so bored by in the past. Does Foreman reinvent the wheel here? And do the tone and atmosphere of the movie gel throughout?
It is nice that once this one came out, nobody ever made a boring musical biopic ever again.
That's Walk Hard theory. Like, how are people still making this
Right.
shit?
And then it happened so long before Walk Hard, and they did it. They weren't even a parody. They just did it right. And I
It
think
did. It did have the most egregious type of
Mike.
music biopic scene, though. The one where someone is yelling at him, and he's like, "Wait, hang on. This is inspiring a song. Hold on. It's a song you know about." Which I'm sure is fresh when it was done in this movie, but I have
Right.
since seen it like 30 other times.
But also because it was done in this movie, and this movie had its tongue slightly in cheek, it feels like mocking. Again, like being like, this is what you think Mozart was, this angel from heaven who just like farts and makes amazing songs. I can't let go how much this guy loves farting.
Yeah,
it was the
That's
best.
very James Joyce, isn't it? Like, it's not just that he made one comment about farts. He's commenting about farts throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
He never stops talking about it.
I think that so much of the tone is set, and it makes sense because it was a play, right? And so the main thing that they took from the play is Salieri's talking to this priest. And this is not, it is just straight comedy. Like, it is played for laughs, set up and punchline, one of the funniest movies of this season that we've done. How did that catch you guys off guard?
Yes.
Did it gel with like what you know about other biopics? Like, is this like, oh, are you corny? Is this epic biopic movie?
I was bummed going into a biopic. And then there's that character actor. He has like the hang-dong look. He plays the servant in the first scene. We find out
Mike.
Salieri is like killing himself, and he makes a joke, and the other guy's just eating.
Oh.
Just eating cake when they think their boss has just killed himself. And I was like, wait, is this movie gonna fucking rule? Because opening like this is strong.
Yeah, the guy who they like burst, one of the guys
Yeah.
who burst through the door. I know exactly. I can picture his face. One of those guys.
Oh,
yeah.
Chevelli
Yeah, exactly. That's who it is. Yeah.
from Ghost, right?
Yeah, and he was
Yes.
also on Star Trek.
And every movie, just because that face is fucking iconic.
Specifically, specifically this director, though. I think he puts him in like
really?
every movie he makes.
Oh yeah, because he's in Cuckoo's Nest. He's one of the.
Oh, yeah.
What do we call him? Patients.
I'm like inmate.
Yeah, that movie makes a case for that, certainly.
Yeah.
That scene also reminded me of my favorite scene from another 84 movie, Once Upon a Time in America, where the little kid brings the pastry over to the girl so he can have sex with her. I just can't help but eat it. And the guy standing behind Chevelli, she's like, "Oh, you're going to eat this shit? Well, I'm going to eat this shit." Jams his nose.
And then he's like, there's just cream all over his face. And that's right away. You're like, wait, this biopic might rule. And also, like, we get a dash of Mozart's childhood, but only Salieri is like, yeah, he was a child prodigy, he was great, and I hated him right away. And then, like, just narrowing in on this, 8-month period is what we want. We don't want somebody's whole life. That's not a good movie.
I think part of what that does, too, with the not a bunch of Mozart background in childhood is it keeps the dad and what happened between dad and Wolfie a little bit of a mystery. I think it's this movie's version of subtle in a movie where we don't get a shit ton of it, of just like, how abusive was it? And if they don't detail exactly what went on, we all get to imagine.
Once he calls you Papa when he's 25 and throws a fit because he won't mete out punishment, obviously, like, something really bad happened, because that is like textbook Arrested Development, right? Like, this something happened to this guy that caused him to not advance past this phase in his life. And of course, like, he's dragged from place to place by this grim father who, as Salieri's dad points out, he like has like a trained monkey. Right? Like, I mean, Salieri would never give his dad the benefit of that, but that's no childhood either.
The dad wears that black mask with the sad face and the happy face in the back, and it's got this big black hat, big black veil. And then when he gets to the party, he's like, "Oh, this was a costume party." Like, that's
Yeah. I do think that there's maybe like something a little bit meta in the scene where Salieri's like, I have to see this genius, and he goes to find Mozart at the party, and Mozart's chasing Stanzi around and like chasing her underneath the table. And that I do have to say, that scene was imprinted on my brain when I saw it as a young girl, because I was like obsessed with her boobs. I was like, whoa. I think when you're a little girl, you're like, I guess that's what dating's gonna be like.
Katie,
now
if you think you're alone in that obsession, you should see the text feed from the three of us over the last week.
Right. No, I know that Elizabeth Barrage's cleavage is a subject of fascination for very many people. I am not alone in this. But it is this kind of bait and switch, I think, maybe a little bit of Milos Forman being like, oh, we're going to be a silly little goose.
Yeah.
This is a silly little goose movie.
Well,
and it's 3 hours long.
He builds up so much tension so effectively. He denies us Mozart for such a long time. And then when he delivers Mozart, he doesn't do it in the most filmic way possible, which would be like to increase the tension and then suddenly have him break it by appearing. Instead, he builds up the tension, and then when he relieves it, he does it in an anticlimactic way, which is perfectly mirrors like the seeing Mozart in the way Salieri does. Right. And then Salieri does have this moment where he's shocked and it zooms in on him. But I just love that, like, you first see Mozart's legs, and what you think you're going to get is like this very slow buildup to him, and then there's a cutback, and it's just he's there suddenly. He's in the shot all of a sudden, and there's been like the denial of that release of that tension, and it sets you up for exactly how the movie is going to be from that point forward.
Yeah, which is just. Well, let me ask you this, Mike. When we were talking about this movie being about Hollywood and about filmmakers, can you see this movie as Forman, like, having as much disdain for like the Michael Bays of the world that he does for the Stanley Kubricks of the world? You know, we've already brought up Barry Lyndon, and it's shot like that, but Kubrick would never do anything like this.
No, it's interesting because the whole time you're like, okay, so which one is Milos if this is about Hollywood? And I think he's a third guy, or there's elements of him in both. I think he looks down on the dusty bitches that are Salieri, and he looks down on the genius rock stars. He's like, all of you are sellouts in your own specific ways and lead to your own destruction. And so I don't think we get a Milos stand-in the movie. It's a guy who's just doing his own thing all the time to the side. I don't know.
But no, he's a guy who's there being able to complete his art. Like he's Milos Forman is the guy in the middle, being a guy who's like talented but not obsessive. He's a guy who like isn't so prideful that he needs the awards. He's not so desperate as to need the acclaim. He just finishes his movie, and I do think it's an incredible point that he is that third guy in the middle. Or
he's the conductor who runs over and plays the piano once Mozart collapses. I don't know.
He's the 3 guy, but he's the 4 man.
He occupies the position that the viewer ends up, which is like a pole in between those two ways of being that is like embraces the greatness, but also like, isn't there a part of us watching the movie that says like, turn to Stanzi, like embrace like your obligation with her, live that part of your life. And so I think it's like we become the merged sort of like consciousness of the movie. And that's where he probably also is too. And you can look at his like CV and you can see it, right? Because he didn't make a ton of movies. And I feel like there's something really baller about that, to just be like, I made a few films, but then like I was done with it. The guy last week was the same thing.
Yes. Scent of a Woman is his worst.
Yeah.
Martin Brest.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where he's just like, I'm going to make, a few movies. And then when I feel like the muse has moved on, I will move on as well.
And if it's because Hollywood didn't call, that's okay. You know, like I will be at peace with what I've done.
Or because I made Geely.
Oh yeah, there is that too.
Sometimes you make Geely, and that's the universe's way of saying, bud, you got to hang this up.
Are Ben and Jen the Mozart and Salieri of our time?
Oh my God. Toxic twosome.
I did not mean for us to get waylaid talking about breasts on this one.
With the music biopic, is he doing... is he doing the same thing with the period piece? Do you think? Like, is he also deflating that as much as the musician biopic?
Yeah, as a huge fan of The Favorite, I didn't know somebody did it decades before Yorgos. I watched this and when there's a clear fucking line of, and like maybe just every 30 years we need somebody to be like, well, it's fucking stupid, right? That biopics always, or period pieces always have one tone.
Mike. Yeah.
And the idea that like, I think what The Favorite's a good example, like, because it shows like, well, you can change the style of dress, but there's no way people were different back then,
right?
Really,
people are people
in their day-to-day life. But what I like, what both really did do a good job of is this movie digs how sumptuous the dressing was back then and leans into it. And it is not in a mocking tone. It is in a celebratory, like, these people were really doing fashion. They were using a lot of exploitation to get themselves some extra nice clothes. But the look of everything is, I think, very loving. Not it's not satire. It's like embracing how cool it all looks.
Yeah, and Foreman didn't like skimp on the fashion designer or the choreographer, Twyla Twerp, who these operas are all, they look magical except for when they're not supposed to, like, I also think he did a good job of like, no, some of these were bad. And some of them, like, they fucked up on,
Especially the Salieri.
I totally forgot Twyla Tharp is the choreographer. I remember seeing that credit when I watched it, the re-release, the restoration, and being like, oh shit, Twyla Tharp. She's kind of a legend in the dance world.
Yeah, that's part of what's so cool about this movie is like, it feels like they went all out on every axis, and like that feels like old school fun Hollywood. Like every part of this should be a blockbuster in every way.
Right. But I do have to like, this movie is so popular. It won all the awards. And I mean, like, I think a lot of people have had similar lives or relationships with this movie to Greg, where it was just like a family staple. It's just on all the time, and we love it, and we watch it, and it fits every audience as long as it's not the director's cut.
Yeah.
So, like, I do think that happened, and I do think that, and I'm not shitting on anybody, which means I'm definitely about to.
Okay, here we go.
Like, this is the first time they were ever able to watch a movie that looked like this and enjoy themselves. And what that did was create like this eternal hit.
And I think a big part of it is it's just so enjoyable. Like the dialogue is so fun, and like you said, the cuts from Salieri back to like the main action of the movie, very few of those are wasted. Like when it cuts back between Salieri and the main action of the movie, it's almost always to punctuate something he has said in a comedic way, and it almost always scores.
The only problem was that at no point the priest while listening to that story was eating popcorn. Like he should have been mowing down on popcorn.
Yes.
It made those parts beautiful because that priest thinks he's in The Exorcist.
Yeah, dude.
And so it hits so much harder.
No, that is the horror angle of this movie, is like, because Salieri is making a full out assault on this guy's faith. And it's pretty clear by the end he won. Like, the priest won't give him absolution, and I think it's because rather than convert Salieri, he himself has been converted to the darkness of the world.
And then says the fucking greatest roast of all time. Like, I'm here for you, boy. I'm the patron saint of mediocrity.
Of mediocrity.
Just like you
Yes.
are. There's one more topic I want to tackle in this segment before we get out of here. One of the first characters we see in this movie is the priest, and the whole framing mechanism is Salieri's confession of the priest. Also, much of the movie concerns a feud with God. Okay, so what do you guys think that Foreman is actually saying about God, the relationship with God, whether it be Salieri's or anybody else's? Is this a focus of Foreman's, or is it just part of the story?
There's a rap lyric. I can't remember. I think it's Cardi B. He's like, anyone who's beefing with me is beefing by themselves. Like, God has no idea what's going on in this movie, Salieri. Are you really think you're fighting God? He's literally talking to a crucifix. So it's Jesus on the cross, and he's like, nothing this bad has ever happened to anybody. I am fortune's fool. What are you doing? It's like, as a kid, I thought it was kind of epic, like he's battling God. As an adult, it is so embarrassing. Like, how is it that you believe in God and you think you are like in a one-on-one fight with him? That's more embarrassing than thinking you're a peer of Mozart.
You wasted your life, bro.
Great.
I find this movie very cynical, and in a way that is like hilariously entertaining, but also very incisive and like cutting. This is a little side tangent, which is that I think it's very interesting that this movie won so many Oscars, when I do think this is Milos Forman's movie about Hollywood and how cynical he thinks Hollywood is. But then Hollywood loves movies about artists, and I also feel that they love movies about themselves, and they are constantly rewarding them in the Oscars, but they always miss the fucking point of the movie.
They ignored the important part.
This is about us,
Right.
everybody.
That's
Yay.
us.
Katie.
Is this fucking play about us? But then they're like missing the fact that like the industry of art is like predatory upon artists. So that's my little side tangent. But then I do think this movie is very cynical. And I also think we have to like, I don't think Milos Forman like believes in God. Like, I think he's like, there is no God.
Yeah.
And you think about him coming from like, his parents were killed in the Holocaust. He grew up in communist Czechoslovakia.
Katie.
Like, this man does not believe in God.
I mean, and I think that it's the perfect sort of, I think that people who are religious are ridiculous, but I'm not going to go on like a Bill Maher rant. I'm going to make a movie like this where it's just woven throughout the entire thing.
And it's not all religious people,
yeah.
but there's an especially ridiculous strain of religiosity to be like, I believe there's a God. I believe I'm going to hell because I am battling him by conquering something. It's like, it's one thing to devote your life to something that you believe in, but like, it seems like he believes in this and at the same time only to betray it and to like make himself feel like a rock star about it.
Because he prayed to get good at music and then was mad at God for not making him the best at music.
For making him like a B+
He's
artist.
Like, but I prayed. Yeah. Mozart didn't even pray. Like, you don't know what that little freak prayed. Like,
Mike.
That guy prayed for drugs and liquor, and he got it.
He got it, dude. 2 fistfuls.
Do you guys ever, like, if something's about to fall down, just be like, please, God, let that fall down? And then it does, and you're like, oh, God.
Boom.
Yeah, I'm good at prayer. Yeah, I also think that he is pointing out that it's a sign of weakness, and I don't know about stupidity, but, like, when you're as religious, as reliant on prayer as Salieri is, then, like, you have so many fewer decisions in your life. Everything is just based on what I think God wants. And, if that doesn't happen, it's because God dictated, not that I didn't work hard enough for it, Right.
And when is Salieri living? Like, what, like he's always in the future.
When he's eating candy.
Yeah.
That's the only moment.
Because that's the one thing he will let himself do, right? Is have sweets. The rest of it, he is going to forego. And so he's like never present. Whereas Mozart, for as bad as it is sometimes, is always at least present in this moment.
Most of that sweet shit looked disgusting, by the way.
Oh, God.
At one point, he was like,
I know, ew.
This is frosted coal with a nut in it. It's like, oh. Gross. All right, we have to take the quickest of breaks. And when we come back, somebody, or maybe nobody, is going into the Pop Filter Hall of Fame.
to the Pop Filter Hall of Fame.
All right, gentlemen, here we are in the hallowed hall. Katie, did you guys give Katie a ticket to the tram?
Shit.
Uh-oh.
Somebody was supposed to give her a ticket so she can get on the tram to come to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Oof. That is...
All right.
Yikes.
Katie, if you can hear us, we're just in this room for a little bit. We'll be back. We'll head to the studio after this.
Move towards the hallowing.
Don't try to come in without a ticket, because
Oh,
security
no,
will
no.
tackle you.
Yeah.
It's where we spend most of the money is on Hall of Fame security. Welcome to, I guess Katie's not here, but welcome to the Pop Filter Hall of Fame, where every once in a while we try to see if there's somebody who is worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. Each of us is going to nominate somebody, but remember, the votes have to be unanimous, so it's possible that nobody gets in. I think it's possible that 2 people get in. I can't remember the last time that happened. It has been
Never.
years. All right, Mike, we're going to start with you. Who should be in this Hall of Fame?
Let me tell you, I'm going to read a list of things. Albums like Carly Rae Jepsen's Dedicated from 2019, St. Vincent's Mass Education, Taylor Swift's 1989, Reputation, Lover, Folklore, Evermore, and then all of her Taylor's versions. 1975, Lana Del Rey's Norman fucking Rockwell, through Did You Know There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard. Songs like We Are Young.
Ooh.
One person connects all these things. One person, and this is scratching the surface. If I want to be cool, and I do, I could be like, I listened to Steel Train when I was in high school. So I've been listening to Jack Antonoff for over 20 years. And not just us, but musical history in the modern era would not be the same without him.
I think that's true. Whether that's a compliment or an insult could be determined. But he's got
The
some
Chick's
shit.
Gaslighter. I was like, what album did I not say for that'll bring Ryan in?
I do love me some Chicks. He's gotten some shit recently because it feels like there's a Antonoff button or a switch that he hits.
Yeah, to
and
Antonoff
it just
up
like
the
sounds
songs.
like him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you buy that? Do you buy into that?
I think he did a lot of innovative, forward-thinking things for 20 years, and maybe is he resting on some laurels these days? Yes, maybe I do. But
Mike,
I don't
who
think we
amongst
should.
us?
Who amongst us hasn't rested on a laurel or several?
There's also that social media where the guy will listen to like 1 second of a song and tell you whether or not Jack Antonoff produced it, and he's
That's
like,
funny.
he's like 95% correct.
Ouch.
Also,
Got his
didn't he
ass.
used to be Mr. Lena Dunham?
He was, and before he was Mr. Lena Dunham, he was Mr. Scarlett Johansson in high school.
Whoa.
In high school.
Some people are just fucking touched, man.
Fumble the bag.
Seriously. All right,
This
Jack
goofus.
Antonoff, definitely a modern choice. A little too cool for us. Barely
I
Gen
was
Z,
sick of
Gen
talking
X
about
kids.
septuagenarians, all right?
Greg, who do you got?
Me too. Septuagenarians, move aside. An octogenarian is speaking. I have
Joseph
well-
Robinette Biden.
I also have a list of things. Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, E.T., Jaws, Superman, and over 300 more credits. And I know what you're thinking. Greg, did you Control F up and down this hall to make sure that John Williams, octogenarian extraordinaire, is not in here? He's not in here. And tonight's episode is about music. And what would any of these movies be without their score? You could not. His like wins above replacement, John Williams, is exceptionally high. What would any of these things be without him? And I think if you listen to other scores, I just watched for fun. I just watched all the Mad Max Fury. Well, they're not all Fury Road movies. All the Mad Max movies, and Brian May did the score for, I think, a few of them at least. And it's like he basically is like, what John Williams scores have I heard, and how can I combine them to create a score for this movie? John Williams made our childhood musically, and I think it's only fitting on this music episode that we show him into our halls.
There's that guy on Twitter who said, start playing a movie score, and I could tell you in the
I was
first
just
2
going to say.
seconds if it's John Williams or not. And he's
Can you
right.
throw some Antonoff shade right back at him?
He's right 99% of the time.
All right. John Williams. I was just thinking about John Williams the other day because when I was in high school, my friends and I would make all these movies, but we had literally no money. Like we were buying VHS-C tapes that we probably stole from our parents and had zero budget, and they were all always movie parodies. And the way that we did it was just that we had one friend who had a massive John Williams collection, and if you put the score in the background, you would know what we were parodying. Like everything he does.
Good hack.
Not everything, but almost everything is that iconic. John Williams. Okay. I am going to nominate somebody who probably we've just been too scared to nominate because if he didn't get in.
Louis C.K., here we go.
That we were worried about what they would do if they lost the voting. But this is somebody
Donald
who
Trump.
did you say double Trump?
Double
Trump.
Even worse.
It's the Trump boys.
It's the two rowdy Trump boys. They snuck into the hallowed halls.
Oh man! Speaking of fucking Fury Road or Furiosa, everybody's commented on how Immortum Joe's son looks just like Mikey Day from SNL, who is Eric Trump. That is the and Immortum Joe has that like poof of yellow hair with the two most fucking dumbass sons of all time. This is somebody who sort of grew up with us in a way. We definitely grew up with him to become, I would say, if we got down to it, our most like Venn diagram musical artist. And I actually know that for a fact because we did a show about it. We had a episode of in the era of Pop Filter, who has done the greatest things. And the person who won the greatest thing over all genres was To Kill a Butterfly. And I would say
Pimp a Butterfly?
To Pimp a Butterfly. Don't kill a butterfly.
To Kill a Butterfly, I think, was the original sequel to Kill a Mockingbird, right?
I think that's a Weezer
It's Harper Lee's rap album.
And I would say, yeah, okay, cool. You've created the greatest thing that had come out since the dawn of Pop Filter. But I don't know how you feel about Drake. And gentlemen, now I do. And I back that up 100%. So I would like Kendrick Lamar to finally get his place in the whole. He's a 5-timer. He's hosted Movie of the Year 5 times. He has to check it. All of them incredible shows. But I do think that he should have a bust here. Okay. So our nominees are Jack Antonoff, John Williams, and Kendrick Lamar. Everyone only gets 2 votes. And so we will start with Jack Antonoff. Mike, what is your vote?
I have vote no.
Oh, okay. I thought there was more. Greg?
Yeah, it's strong class, right? I'm going to be a no as well.
I'm going to vote no
Harder?
whether it was a strong class or not. just no. Mike, let's go to John Williams.
Yes.
Greg?
Oh, yeah, definitely. 100%. That was a really smart pick.
Now I'm leaning towards no, but yeah, I think that like important in our lives. Jesus Christ. I mean, budump. That's what happens when and when a strike is coming. Budump, you know? And then Mike, Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, of course.
Greg?
Yeah, definitely.
Guys, we have 2.
We did it.
Hall of Fame people going in. John Williams
I've heard
and Kendrick Lamar.
it's been years.
I would like some sort of collab or duet with Kendrick Lamar and John Williams as soon as possible. But
Pop
congratulations
culture's crying
to both
out
of them.
for it, gentlemen.
When we come back, more about Amadeus.
Taste Buds, is this movie an episode of The Wire where very differently talented actors all somehow give incredible performances all in the same movie? Without giving away your nominees for best performances of this movie, is everyone great? Are there standouts? Stylized performances? Are there any dreaded stinkeroos?
I don't know if there's a stinkeroo, but it does almost feel at times like the cast were all told a different tone to act in. And it makes it very interesting. It kind of works for me.
And not
because because like it's clear how annoyed Salieri is,
right?
And I think that if Milos Forman is like, hey Tom, do it like this, and then you have F. Murray Abraham who's like, what the fuck's this guy doing? Like, it kind of, you could see how that could work.
It reminded me of there's like the, who knows if it's apocryphal, but on Batman Forever, There's the Tommy Lee Jones says like, I cannot stand your buffoonery, or
I cannot sanction this buffoonery.
And it's and that's the real attitude between Abraham and Holce is that. And but it works.
Holce, it's Holce.
Holce de leche.
Tommaso Holce.
It's one of those things where you're like, I know it's not this, so now it's all I can say.
Well, honestly,
I
think you owe it to yourself to come up with the most like attractive pronunciation of your name, and Holce is a lot better than like Holce. That is not a very pretty name. Are there any performances that stand out to you that you think simply didn't work? Are there any that are a little rough around the edges?
Honestly, I think everyone's good. I could see someone having an issue with Elizabeth Barrage.
Oh, really? Say more about that.
But I think she's playing the character that she's supposed to play.
My take on her was, in a movie where everybody seems like an exaggerated, intense version of whatever they're playing, I felt like she was kind of the one real person in the movie. Like, her performance to me seemed like kind of the most grounded and the most like, hey, everybody, we like need money for food because we need food to eat so that we don't die.
Right.
Like, can we please remember what the goal here is, like, to be healthy and to live for as long as possible?
I think her like evolution, her arc is really fun to watch.
Yeah, because she starts off like a partier.
Yeah, she starts off kind of silly girl. Like her mom is so weird, and
her mom is like a straight vaudeville character. That's the one performance.
That might be the one,
right?
Stanzi's mom. Yeah,
I do think it's very intentionally like supposed to be vaudevillian, but it's so over the top. When her eyes roll back in her head and she passes out on the stage, that is like the way her head rocks back and forth. Pretty intense.
Well, the case of the vapors were going around back then.
How about the accent stuff for you all? Was that like confusing as a kid? I totally accepted it, but watching it this time, did it stand out to you at all?
I was thinking maybe if that's why maybe Stanzi's performance could bug people, because she has the most like modern accent, but everybody has it's clear he's like, no British as fill-in as all accents here. It's just talk like you. And once you get in the rhythm of it, you're like, actually, that's fine. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Cool. But every once in a while, you're like, that wig should not have that voice.
Yeah. It's kind of like Ridley. I feel like Ridley has that approach now. Ridley Scott. Like in Napoleon, he's like, fuck it, whatever your voice is. I don't give a shit. Like, what we're doing is larger on a macro level.
Because, I mean, like, ultimately, what are your choices there? Everybody speaks in a German accent, but they speak English, but it's in a German accent. That, like, doesn't track either. The idea that, like, if we're speaking a common language, let's all have like just whatever our normal voices are. Like, we don't have to pretend that we are speaking with an accent. I thought that worked. The only place for me where it didn't quite work was, I think there is a lot of gravitas conferred on opera because you can't understand what the people are saying. Did you notice that when he writes German opera, because we are listening to people speak German, they sang in English, and it is very weird to hear opera in English, I felt like.
When they were like at the Groundlings version of opera and they were like doing their like Weird Al take on Don Giovanni, and I was like, wait, is that part of the joke?
Mike. Yeah,
is we can understand it now because it is stupider.
It's funny because he's like, only in opera can 20 people speak at the same time. We can understand them. Yeah, because everybody's just saying like shame. Like, you don't need to like. Hold on, what's that guy saying back there? Same thing for.
But I almost wouldn't want to hear opera in German, and I wonder if I ever have. And now I'm gonna seek some out.
Are you opera folks, either one of you? And do you think it at all matters if you're an opera folk?
I like opera, but I grew up on it. But I don't like listen to it on my own. My dad used to play a lot of opera when I was growing up, so I like it for that aspect. But I'm not like putting them on in my home.
Yeah,
just a one-woman opera.
Yeah. No, I mean, listening to it. I mean, it's not like my Spotify is like opera.
I grew up on Bugs Bunny doing opera and like Phantom of the. So no, I cannot say I'm that familiar.
And you certainly don't need it in this movie, right? It's not like
no.
Yeah, you have to take your understanding of opera into this movie. The two main guys in this were both nominated for Best Actor, but neither really became a star. Is there is there any reason why you think that happened?
I think Abraham is too character actory to become a star, even though he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And Holche,
He's too weird looking.
He's too weird looking, and Holche, I think, it's almost a thankless version of this role. Like, I think he has the chops, but he's such a goofball that nobody's like, well, this guy can carry like a Forrest Gump or like a movie of Gravitas.
Do you know who almost played him?
Oh,
Mark Hamill,
Matthew Broderick,
who played the role on stage, and I that's probably also true.
Oh,
but I kind of feel like it's the perfect role for Mark Hamill. I'm surprised he didn't he didn't get it.
Which is funny because I could see modern Mark Hamill crushing Salieri.
Oh,
yeah. He could play both parts over the course of his life. Stanzi is slumming it. What does she see in Wolfie?
talent, baby. She's gonna be a star.
Especially early on, and then you're hooked in with kids and you're trapped, right? I think why I love their relationship, Stanzi and Wolfie. It could work in this era. It could work if they were in That Thing You Do. It could work if they were in a movie about CBGBs. Like, girl who's better than the guy, but he is talented and hot is just a tale as old as time.
I do think there's a way in which the scene where you see it most particularly, I think, is when he's like playing the piano at a party and all the women are draped on the piano. Like, the movie really sells to you that, like, no, he is super like attractive to women. So that might be a major part of it.
Greg.
Whoa, what? What the fuck? What happened?
Wake up, Ryan. We're dead. You were just asleep for like 10 minutes.
How long is this movie? Is it still going?
This is the director's cut with three additional hours of footage.
And all of us in it. I love that. Guys, you know what that sound means? It is time for Speed Round. Your final time to be able to earn points before the last two times.
Where you
to
get
earn
points,
yes. Speed Round. Would their lives have been better if Salieri and Mozart just banged it out?
Challengers.
Yes.
Wouldn't everybody's always?
I think there's
if Stanzia was in the middle, like.
You know what? I decided watching this movie,
Ryan.
I think there's a tendency to be like, I wonder if this Salieri is a homosexual, but I don't honestly, and I could see like a reading of that or whatever, but I think he's asexual, and I think that
yes, totally.
Yeah, I think he like offers up like his sexuality to God because he's actually not like that into it himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's been this pushback about throwing around that term because we just use it too much, but like I do think that this is a good example of it, or at least it's so not a like thing for him. It doesn't drive him. It's not his goal. When and in the director's cut, there's a lot more about his opera student who becomes a star and how he loves her, but Wolfie fucks her first. But I think that's all just because I was not victorious as opposed to I didn't.
Right.
Also, Salieri assumes that happened based on their reactions. It's never really confirmed. And like I do kind of his reading.
Greg.
No, they had sex.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I think so.
It's like, why, if he actually was in love with her, why didn't he make a move?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he wants her to be pure. More, it's like he's not interested in her. He wants her not to do it either. And I think that's because he thinks sex is icky.
Well, and chicks dig the guy who's like, stay pure forever for me until I'm ready. You know, it's such a cool move.
I'm like, wait, what?
No, Katie, you're going to learn a lot about women if you're on this show.
This question was written in by a Dalton Jerfin from Podunk, Indiana. It says, "Where that phantom though?" Thank you, Dalton, for the email. I don't know if you guys want to answer that question.
I felt like the presence of Phantom of the Opera is in this movie, right? When you see that the scenery start coming down, you're like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So that like you make fun of Andrew Lloyd Webber, but like Mozart did the same thing, jerk.
This is the Phantom.
Yeah.
Yes.
The man in the cloak with the mask. Sorry, I'm holding up my old DVD again. Because podcasting is a visual medium. But I do think that this character, the dad / ghost / patron, is the Phantom of the Opera.
I mean, the way that he looks at that picture, and I would take down that painting off my mantle if I was Mozart.
Yes.
The way that he looks at it the same way that Salieri does to pictures of Jesus or pictures of God. I don't know if you can take pictures of God, but it feels like this movie had him. I also...
It's always blurry, like Bigfoot.
to go to the
Walking
Andrew Lloyd
back to
Webber
his
of it all,
lair.
like when Wolfie sort of takes himself down a peg and he's at the, was it burlesque theater? What was it called?
The vaudeville.
The vaudeville theater. Thank you. And the whole time he's looking at his kid. And that's a different stage of being an artist is like, I had a kid, I'm going to make stuff for him. He's looking at like, are you enjoying this?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's Andrew Lloyd Webber, baby, is I make musicals for children.
For child.
Absolutely.
The cats come into the crowd, Ryan.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Parrot Man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, the cage man, like the thing you feed a horse, like the horse was amazing. Like that,
The
Yes.
fairy,
Yeah.
the fairy coming in on like the line.
Yeah.
and every single person in a play back then is the Kool-Aid man. Like you will just bust through whatever wall.
I don't know where my door is. I'll just make one.
The most important part of the show, guys, we have to talk about this. There's a guy that is in the movie throughout. He goes to train maybe his daughter, and then it turns out that he deals with dogs the entire time. Later, Wolfie goes back and begs for money for him. Is this the tallest Oompa Loompa in movie history?
This guy
Yes.
is the biggest Oompa Loompa I've ever seen. But then he's so mean. He's mean dad.
Oh, do you think Oompa Loompas are nice?
He's part of the movie's bad dad collection.
Greg.
But he's Oompa Loompa out, so it's so weird because you don't know, like, and he's like surrounded by this pack of unruly but extremely cute dogs. It's very hard to know how to feel about this guy.
It's so funny to be like, oh, this dog's the problem, while 4 other dogs tear each other apart the whole time.
No, but I hate this one. I want Greg so bad to like open up a museum and just be like, this is part of our bad dad collection.
Yes. dude.
Yes, the bad dad. You
That's-
guys, I think he's in the director's cut. I don't remember.
Oh,
the dog.
no.
The Oompa Loompa man?
Oh, my
man.
goodness.
So Mozart needs money, so he goes to take a student. But Mozart's whole thing is he can't stand anybody who is like doesn't like at least recognize like a little bit of his genius and give him like a little bit of credit. And this guy like brings his dogs in to watch the music lesson, and the dogs won't stop howling, and he ends up playing like a full song for them, and then he storms out. What's interesting about it is it shows you that it's partly Mozart's personality that's keeping him from sticking in any job or anything.
I mean,
Right.
that laugh. I love Mozart and all. Celebrate all the
Wipeout.
Yeah.
I always forget that the movie does not end with him in his deathbed. He wakes up long enough to like kiss his son and wife goodbye and then dies. And in my mind, that's where the movie always ends. Does it really matter that he is buried in a pauper's grave at the end? Is he losing any sleep over it? Are we kind of weird about our dead bodies? Now, there's a lot going on there in the question, but
Speed round.
pick whichever part you
I do think it matters because again, it's this like question of like money and art and talent and like how money doesn't always find the talent or reward the talent. I don't know. I think it's I found it very profound
Katie.
watching it.
And it like Salieri doesn't want to be buried in a grave like who is it, Lenin or somebody who's like on display. He wants his music to carry on. That's all that
Right.
matters. Mozart's music carried on. It doesn't matter where his body is.
I'm torn on this because it's presented as like the biggest affront. And, you know, like ceremonial burial is kind of like the foundation of all culture. And so it is important that we like care so much about what happens with our bodies. But the rest of the movie seems to be like a reflection on
Greg.
if we care so much about what happens after we're dead, that makes us dead in life. And so like, I feel like
Snap.
there's too much.
Getting a double.
Everyone on the podcast just
Greg.
bit into a satisfying steak.
Everybody reacted to Greg like I react to the Denny's menu.
Like when you put your foot in a jacuzzi. That's nice. But you know, and so like it is obviously important in one sense what happens to our bodies, but like, you know, when your time is over, your worries are over and your cares are over as well. And so we ought to embrace that and not be like, man, sucks that this, like once he's dead, all we have left, the monument to this man is his artistic genius. That's what matters. And that's where we should like, because this is a person who, where did his artistic genius come from? Because he approached every day like it was the last day of his life. And so for good or bad, that's how he lived. And that's like what we need to embrace.
I think the only type of body that Mozart cared about is the type of jokes he told.
Ah! Or are you trying to it's catching on.
Should the movie end with a cut to God where he's like, what? And it's clear he has no idea who Salieri even is.
He's like, I was looking at something else, actually.
Oh, sorry. I was ignoring some starving kids over here.
Right.
If God doesn't actually care about like all the bad things that happen, Salieri, trust me, he's not spending that much time like trying to curse you by sending Mozart.
By making you like a mediocre composer.
Yeah, by making you like only really good in your own time.
Super awesome at your job. God, but still, like his need to be accepted by everyone and God makes scenes like Mozart saying, "Oh, I already memorized that little march, and I'll play it for you right now." And the look on Salieri, oh God,
the mix of Salieri being like, "This is the best thing I've ever heard," and it breaks my heart, and I'm so fucking angry about it. Watching Abraham go through that like at each performance is really very interesting.
Yeah,
and how he would look at sheet music that Mozart wrote and just orgasm as if it was Salieri
eating
candy.
And those are the only times he would slip. Like occasionally he would be so moved that he would slip and be like, this person is actually a genius.
All right, we have to take a break. Speed round is over, but when we come back, Amadeus is finally going to get some awards. God, it's about time, movie. Way to go. That's right. It is that show we like to call Awards and Rec, where we give so many awards and one little rec, starting it off with the most recommendable piece of pop culture or otherwise based on watching Amadeus or otherwise. Greg, I'll go to you.
All right. Do you love the whole aesthetic of this movie? The makeup, the big hair, the maybe like approach to art where like you obviously care about it because you're great at it, but also you're like not too reverential. You want to do something new, but you want to pay homage to the classics. Well, then you might like Chapel Roan. And what I'm specifically...
I do like Chapel Roan.
I thought you were talking about church, and you did bring up a chapel.
What I specifically am recommending is check out her NPR Tiny Desk concert. That's so impressive. If you want to be like, but wait, is this person really talented? Check out her Tiny Desk concert. And also, then you get her like in between song, like what she says in between songs, which her whole stage persona is perfect. It's like completely disaffected, like young person, like, oh God, this is like not even a big deal. I don't even care. This is so stupid. At one point, she just pulls out a flip phone and looks at it for like a solid minute without saying anything, and then goes, ha, and then closes it, and then starts the next song. The audio production for Tiny Desk concerts is like kind of hard to wrap my mind around, and this one, she sounds amazing. I like the Tiny Desk concert version of her songs more than the version on her album, and I listen to that album like a couple times a week. So if you like Amadeus, check out recording artist Chapel Roan's Tiny Desk concert.
I believe you.
I think that's perfect.
I believe you on what you're saying, but still, I like the Tiny Desk concert version better than the recorded version. Is one of the most hipster tote bag carrying things I've ever
I know. I'm shameless, but it is such a good Tiny Desk concert. Check it out.
Mikey, what do we got?
If you want a like pretty talentless, jealous hack, vampirically going after a young, talented person who they're young, they're fuck up sometimes. I'd say check out 1999's Election. I just had flashes of Election the whole time watching this.
That's so good. Katie, what do you recommend?
Okay, if you like a filmmaking master making his movie about how Hollywood is fucked up, can I recommend the 2000 film Gladiator by Ridley Scott?
Only if there's a sequel.
Which is a movie about how men just want to put on a little show. And I just watched it on the plane for the first time in potentially 24 years. And I was like, oh, this is just about Ridley being like, there's some fucking producer sitting up on a pedestal saying yes or no. And we got to win the crowd and we got to make it entertaining. And, I just was like, oh, this is his Hollywood movie. So if Amadeus is Foreman's Hollywood movie, Gladiator is Ridley's Hollywood movie.
I think the comparisons between, and this is the second or third time you brought up Ridley Scott, the comparisons between Scott and Miloš are pretty amazing. That's something that I never thought about until tonight. Just about like, no, I can do it. I'll just do it my way. Shut the fuck up.
Yes.
Leave me alone.
Yes, because I did bring up Napoleon, which I also think could be a good recommendation for this. Like, fuck the history, fuck the, accents. Like, I'm just going to do what I want.
Plus, horny as hell. Isn't that movie got the eroticism that we're all looking for?
Yeah, could have more. Could have
Could
more.
have more.
I cannot wait for the 4-hour
Yes, I'm
version
there.
of Napoleon.
I'm
I am
there.
seated for the 4-hour version of Napoleon.
I love the bland man of history take in Napoleon. Just Napoleon being like, I don't know, man, you send in the troops.
Yeah.
Katie bringing up Gladiator, and then Mike before that bringing up Election. Made me think of a new game. Bring up a movie from like the late 90s, early 2000s, and then we play, should this have a sequel or Broadway musical in
Oh.
2024?
Ooh.
And Election
that's
is
a good one.
I think Broadway musical?
That's musical. No,
Yes.
dude.
Yes.
Yeah, that is totally musical.
I'm going to give that point to Mike. Election rules and is not talked about enough. Let's go to 84
Mike.
Fit, Mike. This is a period piece, and we're doing the award.
Yes, but do you know who was big in 84? Prince, Purple Rain. Do you know who rocked a great crushed velvet lavender outfit with the wild slicked back wig when you think of Mozart's hair? Tom Hoche de Leche. All right? And it's the lavender crushed velvet suit.
I can't wait till later in the podcast where you start mispronouncing Tom. Like you can't even right?
Hoche de Leche.
Tommaso Hoche.
So I'm sorry, which specific outfit?
He has like a violet lavender crushed velvet suit with the big ruffle strap.
Is this
on
with the
his
big
neck.
gold hat?
No, pre-big gold hat.
Okay.
This
He
is
has like
before
the
his-
wild hair that looks like he was at the Dolby commercial with the fans blowing it backwards.
Katie, what's the most 84 fit in Amadeus?
It's the wig. It's the pink, like poofy wig that's poofed straight out.
Yeah,
I know it's not the outfit, but it's that pink. It's the poofy. It's not. I don't know. It's like a pom pom.
Feathered in the front.
Yeah. It's
Party
a
in the back.
It's a light pink pom pom.
One of the things we didn't
on his
talk
head.
about is there is a shopping montage where he just goes shopping.
Yeah.
And, like, he's more delighted than any other part in the movie.
He gives the near total recall read where he says, I wish I had 3 heads. I'm also going to go with a look that incorporates that wig. So his like first
Okay.
conducting outfit, he's got the big like ruff, the poofy ruff at the front of his shirt. He's got the pink wig, and he's the only one who like goes for like the feathered look to the hair instead of just the tight curl. And then he's like wearing like a tan and like floral jacket, and the sleeves are so awesome. We really like, it's dangerous, but we need to bring back the sleeves from the late 18th century because they're gorgeous and they're so epic. And then
Wait, dangerous because like fire hazard?
yeah, because they get like cotton stuff. I mean, it's like a big drape. You know, it really is like, it's kind of rich person wear. It's like you can only wear it if you're not going to be doing anything with your hands, if people are going to carry your
Right.
stuff. And yeah, you're not going to have to like change it.
No one's opening a door.
Yeah,
for
exactly,
you.
'cause honestly, like-
or you know what, you're not opening your own door.
If
yeah.
you literally had to close a door with these, there's a good chance you're going to like close the sleeve in the door, right? So you have to have somebody
Yeah.
else do
And if
it.
the Uber driver just drives away, you're dead.
Man,
Or it's
just
going to
Yeah.
at least rip your shirt off.
You're sleeveless.
And he's going to get a bad rating, which they're really afraid of that. But yeah, so it's like early conducting outfit.
You guys know I love the connections. The connection to Purple Rain is definitely going to get Mike to take this down. But the correct answer was
Oh.
for 1984.
Mike.
It's when I think he's playing pool at home and he takes off his wig and it's just John Bon Jovi. Like his hair, his actual hair is the most 84 thing about this movie. Here's a weird question. We'll start with Mike. Music moment in Amadeus. Was it hard to pick one?
There's a lot of them. It was hard to pick one. So the one that I thought worked very emotionally was F. Murray going through the sheet music and hearing the different pieces. And one, like, it shows that he's not a total hack to be able to read it and hear it. I think that showed something about his character. It shows how great Mozart is. But also the dummy in me, I was like, I remember all these songs from my grandpa's calculator. I do know Mozart too.
Wait, why did your grandpa's calculator play music?
Because he was dope. I don't know. There's 3 buttons on his old calculator that I'd play with as a kid that played different Mozart songs.
Was it like a TI 80 or whatever?
Older.
Oh, TI 79?
TI 69.
Hey.
Greg?
Yeah, it's very hard to choose because it's not just that this is a movie about music. I think it uses music very cleverly.
Mhm.
And the most clever time, I think, is when Salieri's like, oh, Mozart's coming to court. I will put together a nice little Salieri number to welcome him to court. And then you have Jeffrey Jones like kind of like plucking his way through it. And then later it's revealed that Mozart just by ear has like totally picked it up, and he plays it really quickly, and he's like, and then it just kind of goes on, like it just repeats like that, right? He's like, did you think about doing this? And he begins to improvise on it, and then he corrects this part that he's like, well, that doesn't really work, does it? And watching Salieri go from like, oh, this is kind of delightful to like, okay, dude, like, I hope you die, and I hope I'm the one that kills you. While also realizing that like he's in the presence of the greatness, but he can only understand it, but not be it. Like I think it's the movie sort of, I think, boiled down to just this one musical moment.
Watching Salieri watch Jeffrey Jones play Salieri's March is like watching my mom watch me do anything. I just had the whole time being like, oh, no, don't cut like that. No, that's not how you clean. Yeah. Why would you do it that way? That's a stupid way to do it.
I'm why this terrible thing exists.
I know. It's your fucking fault, Mom.
Yeah.
Katie, musical moment.
Well, I think Greg is correct. I like that scene a lot. But I would have to go with, I think when Mozart collapses while he's conducting. Is he conducting Don Giovanni at that point?
Or is he playing the piano?
No, I think he's he's playing the piano and the magic flute.
Okay. Yes. I don't know. It's very emotional. I think all the stuff at the end. I was gonna say Don Giovanni, the Phantom of the Opera moment, but because it's so about his dad, and so and Salieri's so entranced by it. I'm changing my answer. I'm saying Don Giovanni, but I do think Greg is correct.
And that is correct. Greg is correct. The Salieri March is. It just shows us everything that we need to know about music in that moment.
Yeah,
you know?
Honestly, you are equipped to understand the rest of the movie after
Greg.
that.
Let's start with Greg cringiest moment.
Okay, this is a movie that, for a movie from 1984, I think it does a pretty good job of avoiding the old cringe express. So I'm not going to go my normal route, and I'm just going to pick something that literally did cause me to cringe in the movie, but it's not like objectionable necessarily, which is the scene where they're like at the mask, and they're like, Papa Mozart, give your son a punishment. And he's like, Papa, I must have a punishment. And the dad's like, you got to come home to Salzburg with me. He's like, no, Papa, it has to be in the game. It has to be in the game, Papa. And you're just like, oh man, this is my king here? Like, I'm not so sure about this.
In the game, it's like, pull down your pants and get a spanking or something that the dad is not going to be able to handle.
Yeah, and just like, here's this guy, he keeps calling him Papa, which is like, the way he's saying it, it's like just a step below daddy. And the whole punish me, Papa thing, it's just like, it's making textual what has been kind of subtextual, and we don't want it all the way up at the level of meaning. Like, we don't want to see it. We want to just kind of feel it.
On that note, Papa Punishment is Greg's new nickname, so we will only refer to him as that.
Papa.
Mike, what do you got for cringe?
The movie was so good that it's wiped this away, even though it's what you leave off with. But even though I love dusty vampiric Salieri but at the end, him going down like the asylum and like, look at these grotesques.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, you can't even be like, oh, because this is Salieri telling it. It's just like, it feels like Milos is like, he's amongst all these freaks and insane. I was just like, I don't like this at all, movie. What the fuck are you doing?
Was it weird that when he walked past, they rolled him past Jack Nicholson and Nurse Ratched talking?
Yes.
Like, the foreman
We get it.
Katie, what's the cringe?
Okay, so I don't think this movie is that cringy, but I do. My cringiest moment is also going to be my sexual awakening, which is Elizabeth Barrage's boobs under the table.
That's going to lose
action.
for sure.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Mike. It was not considering. I'm sorry, Katie.
I do think Mike is correct. No. I do think Mike is correct. I'm just reaching, and I also just wanted to shout out the boobs again.
It really is gross.
Shout out the boobs.
It really is gross anytime a movie maker tries to use like deformity or like mental illness and especially because these people are being grossly mistreated in the scene too. They're like in cages and everything, but it feels like we're supposed to be like, and I don't want to be manipulated that way by movies.
And all the handling, I know we didn't spend that much time there, seems so random. It's like, put that guy in a cage, put her on chains.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, he can have a wheelchair.
Give him the long sleeves from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And then let Salieri sit in a chair or a room by himself and just do whatever he wants.
Yeah, he gets his own room. Everyone else is in the shit hallway. Like,
but that's it, and it feels like this is his punishment, is to be amongst these people.
Let's go with pound for pound performance. What was the best performance, regardless of amount of screen time? Katie, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, I do think it's F. Murray Abraham. However, and he's a problematic person, Jeffrey Jones is so good in this movie.
It sucks. It sucks, but that could have been
sucks.
That could have been the
but he's
cringe
so
moment
good.
too. That was my like backup
Yes.
cringe moment. Was as soon
Yeah.
as you see him and you're like, I don't like looking at this guy, and he's so good in this movie.
Do you know what he has that I admire?
Yeah, that's why he got in so much trouble.
Give Mike and Katie a point real quick.
Yeah, I deserve that one.
Mike,
I'd give Greg the point.
Katie,
I know you would, buddy. We're different hosts.
Katie.
What he has that I admire is that when he thinks that the conversation's winding down, he has this like catchphrase. I can't even remember. He's like, "Well, is that it then?" And then everybody just knows to leave. And I like on Zoom calls and shit. I just wish I had that. Like, are we fucking done? And then have everybody walk away. That's such an important skill to have.
And I do like
Also, his little repeated gag of like,
yeah. Also, he's another one of these complicated characters where it's not like he's not just a bad emperor. He seems like okay, honestly, but he is kind of bad because like he won't actually evince any opinion, and then other people are trying to mirror back his lack of opinion to him.
Yeah, they're always just like trying to read him.
Yeah.
He's Trump first term until second term. Trump replaces all those people with people who will just say the worst things possible.
Toadies.
Toadies the wet sprocket. Mike, pound for pound performance.
I'm gonna shout out Elizabeth Barrage. I think again, 84 and period piece, and who knows how it was written, but I think Stanzi is very nuanced and does a lot, and I think Barrage brings that to life. And it's not just because of those dresses, okay? It's not. I think her acting
we
talent.
know the reason.
She gave the two best performances. This is a rough one for me because she also might be the worst in the movie.
Okay. I think this is also mine, Mike. I think her performance is unique in the movie, but when I thought that, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to say Elizabeth Barrett since I've been in love with her my entire life, so I might as well have this opportunity. Liz, are you out there? Look me up. And so then I was like, okay, well then what are you going to say are the scenes that make the case for this? So I went back and I exclusively watched her scenes, and I swear,
I bet you did.
I swear, she has the most realistic performances. F. Murray Abraham's performances are virtuoso and fun. I think he almost has too much fun in the role. I think she is the one who finds the humanity, the reality, the actual literal place of the movie and puts herself there. And she's the one reacting in a realistic way. And I think that it causes it to stand out a little bit. But I think that she's giving a very subtle, very powerful performance. And like in the last scene, for instance, that she's in, where she has to come in being like, I'm home, everybody. Isn't this great? And she has to go from that to who's this guy that's sleeping in this bed? Wait, why is it Salieri? Wait, what have they been doing? Wait, is my husband fucking dead over there?
Yeah.
Like, she's got a lot of places to go, and she gets there every time. So she's definitely my choice as well.
Especially because in the theatrical cut, you don't understand why she's so upset at Salieri.
Yeah. In the director's cut, he straight up like sexually assaults her. He brings her over to his house under false premises, causes her to disrobe, and then humiliates her by calling in his like valet to see her out. And he constructs this whole situation just to humiliate her and hurt her, and she carries that the rest of the movie, and she's traumatized by it. So yeah, when she comes home and sees him there, it brings all that out.
Yeah. Is that the cringiest moment?
Yeah, I mean,
I guess it is. Yeah. It is pretty cringy because it does that movie thing where Salieri is assaulting her, but then he ends up doing it on behalf of the audience. It's like Princess Leia in her slave bikini. Like, we are grossed out by Jabba the Hutt because he puts her in that bikini, but we are titillated by seeing her in that bikini. Right. And so, like, we commit the same crime that this big space slug is committing. And by having her bare her breasts in that scene, I think there's the same way in which we're like, we are committing the same crime Salieri is committing in that moment. And violating her. Yeah.
We do not condone.
I will say she has been married to Kevin Corrigan for like 23 years.
Did they meet on Grounded for Life?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And that's when a spin-off podcast was born. I am going to give that point to me. It's clearly F. Murray Abraham. I'm not giving it to Elizabeth Barrage, and I cannot give somebody a point who said Jeffrey Jones. So, last award here, Mike. It's director's signature moment. This is our second Foreman of Movie of the Year. I hope that we have one more left in us because I do love me some People versus Larry Flint. But what is...
You don't want to do Goya's Ghost someday?
Cross your fingers.
I think he's fascinating now knowing like all the stuff he's done, because other than One Flew, he's so fascinated by artists, and that's interesting. But I was going to try to do a connection, but that's too broad. The big wild party scene where they're like flipping Amadeus over and making him play piano in different ways, and there's so much chaos, and then Salieri's like in the middle of the room. Like I think Milos is really good at capturing chaos, whether it is the riot in Cuckoo's Nest or the wrestling scenes in Man on the Moon. Those are my examples. End of list. He captured those well while being like, isn't this wild and crazy and fun, while also having like tent poles of emotion amidst the fun chaos.
Well put. Greg, what do you got?
Okay, I'm going to try to keep this brief. When Salieri knows he's going to see Mozart, he's moving around a party trying to see which one of these people is Mozart. And we're all in hand cam, and we're really feeling like this event. We're moving around people. We feel like how uncomfortable Salieri is. Then we know that we see Mozart run into a room chasing Stanzi. And Salieri looks at them but does not follow them. But then there's some suites. And he follows the suites into a room, and he tries to act like he doesn't. We see him see the suites before we see what's in the room, and we see him light up. And then when the footmen come back, having put the suites in the room, he doesn't want them to see that he's lit up, so he acts like he's walking away, and he makes a little bit of a U-turn. And the footmen go through the door, and the door closes, and the camera is not on Salieri's side. The door closes in the room. The camera's in the room looking at the door. And there's a rest. And then the doorknob turns, and Salieri comes in, and we see his face light up again. And I think that tells us everything we need to know about Salieri in just that moment. Then he goes into the room, and there's a lot of other cool stuff that takes place in the room. But the shots between hand cam and steady, or like just like a static shot. So there's hand cam in the party, but then when we're looking at Salieri, we're always looking at him on these like stationary shots. So we feel like a little bit of that lack of life. And that's the kind of shot that the door closes on. And there's just a moment there where we're looking at this closed door, and then the latch slowly turns, and Salieri comes into the room. And that moment right there, the way it's nestled in those other moments I discussed, but that moment of being on the other side of the door, which is so odd feeling, really, is my director's signature moment.
Almost like that if Salieri were to, at some point in the movie, do coke and bang whores, it would still be the most boring stationary camera. But if Wolfie just takes a leak, it's going to be this like wild
because he has
movement.
He has life.
Right.
Yeah, he has life in him. And honestly, like, you don't notice it when you're just watching these scenes. That's why it's very cleverly done. But I tried to like pull myself out of it. And I felt something in that scene. That I think that's like what moved me about it.
Katie, what's the 4-minute moment?
I think my answer is sort of a combo of Mike and Greg, which is like capturing like these party scenes, like lots of bodies, chaos, but singling out the storyline within the chaos. Like I was thinking of Fireman's Ball, which I haven't seen since film school, but also takes place at a party, and like, but able to find these storylines with a lot of different people. And I think that also kind of is reflected in like some of the staging of the operas and things like that as well. I think he just does that kind of, when I think of him, I think of this kind of like moving camera and like lots of bodies.
All excellent answers. And I do think that like if you've not seen any of these 4 or 5 major and then probably 10, let's say lesser formans, I would please go check them out. I am going to give that to Mike though, because I do think that he has this thing that like
Mike.
It's been hard for like say David Fincher to figure out, which is when David Fincher wants something to be ironically cool, he can't help it. It's just cool. There's a lot of directors like this. And when Foreman does this cool stuff, you're always icked out. You know, you always feel the grossness and what it takes to get to that level of chaos and what the repercussions are going to be after it. And I think you can see that with Randall McMurphy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I think that it's all through Larry Flint. And I think it's with Jim Carrey as Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman, thank you. Too, of like this other people admire you, but what you had to do to get to that admiration, no, like it just wasn't worth it. So awesome job, Mike. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to announce the winner of the show and what is in store for the future of this season. All right, the final tallies are in, and tied for either first or last place. I'm not going to reveal yet. Is Katie and Greg with 28 points each.
Oof.
Yay.
Feels like a losing score, Katie, gotta say.
I know who's winning this already.
It feels like a losing one until you guys think about who the other panelist is. And then aren't you excited?
Yes. Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Is that worth a point?
Don't be excited.
Good point, Ryan. Oh.
Greg, don't be excited. Mike is the winner of the Amadeus show.
I knew it.
Good gravy.
Sometimes you're Mozart amongst a couple of Salieris.
Oh. Well, all hail mediocrities.
Yeah, honestly, I think that you guys were too good and too new. Introduced too many new ideas that it was just too confusing.
I made too many points. I'm
Yeah.
always doing that.
Yeah.
Make too many points, score too few.
Score too few. But I don't know. I think that Amadeus is great. I don't know if I would put it up there. Do you guys still think that this is sort of a slam dunk?
Yeah,
Well,
you didn't convince me of anything.
I mean, you didn't change my opinion on it, but since the way the show works is that the three of us are going to vote on what wins, I think that it's not going to be Paris, Texas, because that wasn't Mike. Mike didn't love it. You weren't blown away by this. It's going to have to be some third movie. I don't think Mike and I can love it enough to where it overcomes.
And we still have one more movie.
I think we convinced you, Ryan.
Yeah, we
that
did.
the movie is better than you thought.
So that's the power I have, is I make people think they convinced me of things when they never did at all. We also have one more 84 movie. Nightmare on Elm Street could take
Yes,
this
sir.
whole motherfucker down. So
Wow.
Still could do it.
Greg's favorite actor, Johnny Depp, is in that movie. So
That's a fun fact about me.
And Greg, it's true you say you're fine with his acting, but you love how he is outside of the screen?
You really admire his approach to personal relationships.
Yeah,
I'll change the subject for you, Greg. Can you tell us where our audience and the three of us can find you? Besides, of course, RottenTomatoes.com, where you're just on
Yes.
every movie page there is.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter or X, if you will.
It still sounds so dumb. You can
I
find
know,
me
it
on
sounds
X.
So dumb. Find me on X. On X.com, I'm posting all my posts. My handle is Katie Walsh, STX, and also on Letterboxd. That is my handle. And that is where you can find me. And that is where I post all of my reviews and various musings about dumb things. So that's it.
I am not on X, but I'm going to follow you on Letterboxd right now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Mike, where else can we find Katie?
Oh. Just wandering around LA at Beyond Fest mostly.
Yeah, at the Egyptian Theater or the Arrow, anywhere the American Cinematheque shows fine films.
Well, I want to say thank you so much to Katie Walsh. Thank you so much to,
sure.
Thank you.
of course, Milos Forman.
Oh, yeah.
If he's...
Reason for the season.
I think he died.
Oof.
Yeah.
2018, I believe.
Tough break.
He died.
Tough break, guy.
Okay. Just before the pandemic, you missed it. I want to say thanks to Mike and Greg, and thanks to all of you for listening. Next week is Nightmare, and then the week after that, guys, stay tuned, subscribe, because this is about to go down. We're going to figure out what the fucking movie of the year of 1984 is. For my panelists, my name is Ryan, and as always, keep watching those movies.
That literally did happen once where I left in just the stuff right at the beginning of us talking about setting up the recording, which
Did
seems
you?
like that would be the last thing that you would accidentally leave in because it's the very beginning of the track. How could that even happen?
No, you're not the Salieri at all. All right, ready?
Yes.